Welcome to Beyond Movement Project. My name is Matthew Philly, husband, father, entrepreneur, and it's my mission to bring you people who are doing incredible things that will help you reach your next level. Join me as I look beyond movement to discover how we can become the most powerful version of ourselves. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? Today's guest is an elite level triathlete that climbed her way from barely being able to swim, and I'm talking doggy paddle status here, to placing second place at an Ironman and qualifying for Kona World Championships, all in a 3-year span. If you ask me, this feat alone sounds impossible, but in this conversation, we discovered just how she made this a reality. Knowing what it's like to set her goals almost insurmountably high, going through the trenches to achieve them, all while having 4 children, she now helps coach athletes how to harness the power of their mind to achieve their greatest potential as well. This is episode 8 with Leah Jantzen. All right, we're live. Leah, I can't even imagine how intense this all has been for you. I'm actually super stoked to get this conversation going. I have so many questions for you, and I'm really excited to kind of see what you have to say for yourself, because I swear you are some kind of wild alien anomaly or something with the accomplishments that you've come up with. So let's get started with how you've come from, at 43 years old, having no idea how to swim properly. Like, especially, I mean, you could save your life if you're falling in a pool or in the water, but you couldn't really swim competitively at all, to 3 years later qualifying for Kona. And for those who don't really understand what Kona is, it's like worlds for Ironman, for triathlons. So let's get started on that.
Okay.
How the hell did you do that? Where did that all start for you?
That's a great question. Yes, Kona is like the Super Bowl. I call it the Super Bowl of triathlon. So basically, I was an athlete growing up. So I grew up as an athlete playing tennis, volleyball. You know, I participated in sports. I was athletic. I wasn't like a superstar. I wasn't anything like that. But I never did any running, any swimming, any biking. But I definitely had the competitive spirit. So I think that's important to note. And I definitely was scrappy as a kid. Like I fought my way through a lot of tennis matches and a lot of different one-on-one. So I was good at the one-on-one sports. So fast forward, I have 4 kids. So from the age of 30 to 40, I basically was like a baby machine. That's all I kind of did. I had kids. I didn't really exercise much. I would run here or there. And then I turned 40 and I said, you know what? I think it's time for me to get back into some kind of working out or some kind of routine. I did CrossFit for about 3 years, 2 years, 3 years. And I loved that. Like, I definitely loved the competitive spirit, but I wasn't built for Olympic lifting. Like, snatching was not my forte, but I loved learning how to deadlift and learning how to do, all of those cool, different, pull-ups and stuff like that. So it really brought back that spirit to me. So I did a race with the runners, with the CrossFit crew, and I did a 5K, and they're like, "You can run. You're pretty fast." I'm like, "Okay." I didn't know. Like, I'm like, "All right." Fast forward. Next thing you know, I'm running a marathon. Like, I ran a half marathon. I did pretty well. I ran like a 1:43 in my first half, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, that's so incredible. You're such a good runner." I'm like, "I am? Oh my God, I didn't know." So then I'm like, of course I'm going to run a marathon. So I ran my first marathon at age 42, and I never had run more than 20 miles at that point. Before that I had run maybe 15, like I wasn't a runner. So I run my marathon and I qualified for Boston in my first marathon. And I was like, holy shit, like, that's awesome. So all my runner friends that I met around here, who I never knew existed, I'd never run in a group. I had never done anything more than like run in my neighborhood. So they said, "You have to do triathlon." I said, "Let me tell you something. I am a land person. I do not go in the water." And I'm being completely honest when I tell you, I live on an island, right? I live on Long Island. I am surrounded by water. I don't go in it. I don't swim in it. I don't wade in it. I don't like cold. I don't like water. I don't go in pools. I don't have a pool. So the whole idea of swimming was like a foreign concept. I didn't even like being in the water. So I said, I'm going to have to really get over myself if I want to do this triathlon thing. But it was intriguing to me. And it was also interesting from a injury standpoint. I'm like, if I keep running like this, because I did 3 marathons that first year. I did Boston, I did New York City, and I did this local one. I said, I feel like it wasn't going to be good for me to keep running. I needed to change it up, which is why everybody was doing triathlon. Like, it's perfect. You bike, you swim, you kind of cross train, so your body doesn't take such a beating. I said, that's a great idea. So ready? I go into the pool. I go to this swim clinic with all these triathletes, and they put me in lane 1. And I've told this story before. And lane 1 was blowing bubbles with your face in the water. Like, that's as elementary as we were. And like you said before, I could swim to save my life. I would doggy paddle through the water. But even my husband said, Leah, I would worry about you in the ocean. I was like, I got to keep an eye on her. Swear to God. Like, that's how bad it was. So I swim my first lap in the pool. I'm 43, and I'm like, out of breath. I can't breathe. I don't know how to breathe. I don't know how to kick. I don't know how to do anything. And they're like, you're trying way too hard. You got to just relax. And I saw the people in lane 8, and I was like, wow. I'm looking down going, oh man, I'm never going to be able to do that. Like, they're amazing swimmers. I am, I can't even do 25, 50 yards or whatever it was. But I worked so hard at it. I really did. I YouTubed and I Googled and I watched people swim, and I saw what they did with their arms, and I saw what they did with their feet. And I watched their head go in the water, and I really, practiced a lot, and I was an observer, and I was a learner. I was obsessed with learning about it. So then forget the pool. The pool's easy. Once you get into the open water, as you understand, that's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah. There's no lanes.
There's no lanes.
There's no lines for you to follow.
The first time we started swimming, I think I started going towards Connecticut. They're like, Leah, come back. I was like, no sighting. I don't know how to sight. I don't know how to do anything. And anyway, and I show up, this is a true story, with my wetsuit zipped in the front. First day of triathlon in the water. They're like, sweetie, you got to turn it around. I was like, oh my God. So embarrassed. That was me. And that was 2016. This is not that long ago. So fast forward, I really pushed myself in the water. We're talking getting up at 4:30 and meeting friends to swim at 5 a.m. And we're talking about getting in the water in the dark, pretty much, and swimming and not stopping. And I credit a friend of mine who I always talk about, who was next to me, and he just sort of stayed with me. He was in the yellow cap, and I was so nervous. I would panic, right? I would pop up and panic, scary, because it's scary sometimes in the water and you can't breathe and there's no stopping. And I would look at him and go, I can't do it. And he's like, just shut up and swim. Put your face down.
Just keep going.
Yeah, just keep going. He's like, you're fine. You stop. You're fine. I'm like, my goggles are, get scared. And he's like, just swim. So the point of the story is, and then again, like you said, 3 years later, I'm in Chattanooga swimming in the Ironman. And I chose that race. Swimming is definitely not my strength. Of all the three, it's my worst one. But I managed to qualify for Kona with a swim time of a 104 in the Ironman, which is a fabulous swim time. It was a down current, but I'll take it. So
yeah, that's wild.
That's the sort of middle length story.
Unbelievable. So I kind of want to back up for a second, because did you just mention that you did your first marathon and then within the same year you did 3 more or 2 more?
2 more. So I did
three marathons in 1 year for your first marathon, pretty much.
Yeah, which was a lot. So I did, and the funny part was I did the first one, that first time I qualified for Boston, and then a friend of mine said to me, he worked for New York City Police Department, and he had a connection. He goes, do you want to run New York City Marathon? I said, I wanted to run that since I was a kid. I used to watch it on TV. And he goes, I can get you in. I go, but it's in 5 weeks, and I just ran my first one. And I said, I don't care, I'm doing it. And I did it, and I ran it 5 weeks later, which was awesome. And I had the same time. I thought I was going to have this horrible time. And every marathon since then has been faster. And I think that's another thing I want to point out to people, is that just because, I thought for sure my first marathon was going to be my slowest, because my fastest, because I was the youngest, right? At 42, I'm like, this is it. This is the fastest I'm going to go. Every single one has been faster. Every one, up until last year, my last marathon.
That's incredible.
In 2019, yeah.
What's mind-blowing to me in terms of when it comes to endurance sports, I'm coming from a background of powerlifting, CrossFit, weightlifting, strength-based training, right? That's kind of my background. That's where I'm comfortable, my wheelhouse. you're not peaking anywhere really past the age of 30 pretty much. Like you've peaked before that. Now when it comes to endurance sports, you're seeing people that are peaking in their 40s
Mhm.
and like mid 40s. Like it blows my mind completely, and like it's so interesting to see that like it adaptability can take quite a while, right?
Yeah.
Like years and years and years of programming your heart and your lungs just to accept these like wild paces that you're placing on them.
Sure. I mean, these thresholds that you bust through, because I think you also get mentally tougher and you get stronger, and you don't accept, you're more confident as an athlete the older you get. There's no
Mm.
doubt about it. Even at my age now, like I'm not done. I'm not done getting, I think I still have a faster marathon in me, and I plan on doing a faster marathon. That's my goal. And
Yeah,
I feel like there's an end, I mean, not
I
yet.
love how you said you get mentally tougher as
Mhm.
well. Like, that part of that might have to do with age, but also the experience of just constantly going through, like pushing those limits a little
Yeah,
bit further, and
yeah.
like that says a lot too.
Well, I also think, and I say this, and this applies more to women than men, but when I see the women that are in like their early 40s, they are so tough and they are so strong because they had their children, most of them, and now they're back and they mean business. Like, so they're hungry. You know what I mean? And I say this all the time. People say, how do you, I believe so much in quality over quantity. So if I do a workout, if I'm going to leave my kids and my family and I've got 1 hour or 90 minutes, that shit is going to be absolutely the best I've got in that short time frame. There's just no room for, so I make every bit count because of the time constraints that I have.
You're
You
going to
know,
leave it all on the floor pretty
I
much.
leave it all out there. Like
Yeah.
every single workout has intention. Every single workout has meaning. There's nothing left. I don't leave anything on the table, because I'm so busy. So a lot of moms tend to be serious athletes, especially, like I said, the early 40s, crazy, and even my age group, it's like they're insane because they're more experienced, they're more confident, and they're putting it all out there. They're like, all right, now I'm back, so it's interesting to see that. But I think, like you said before, as opposed to like lifters and strength based at 30, you're very different. But a lot of men and women in their 40s, they're just really mentally so conditioned, and their bodies they've had years and years of the physical conditioning, and it really, I think it's cumulative in some respects. It can
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, but honestly, like going back to where we started with all this conversation, like you starting as an endurance athlete 3 years before qualifying for something as serious as Kona, like that, it seems almost impossible. And it's so cool to see that you've done that. Now, I kind of want to highlight the fact here that a lot of people would think like, again, as I said, you're an anomaly, right? Like, is just naturally gifted because of the fact that you qualified 3 years later after even basically learning how to swim. So that right there will sound like it's just comes so naturally to you. But you did mention the fact that you busted your balls, so to speak, to like you're Googling, you're YouTubing, you're literally just obsessive about it. So I kind of wanted you to break that down a little bit too. Like, have you been told that it's so natural for you, it must be so easy? You must have heard that.
Yeah, I mean, some people say, "Oh, you're just so athletic and so gifted." Um, Look, I said at the start of this, I am an athlete. Like, I definitely, so, a certain level of performance comes easily to me. But that's here. Kona's up here. So a lot of people can get to here, but the difference, to get to that next level requires the other stuff. That's where I make a difference, where I think a lot of people are on the same level as me. I think there's a lot of talented athletes. I see them. But they're not willing to put in the work. They're not willing to push themselves and get uncomfortable day in, day out. And also do the other things like sleep and eat properly.
Mm,
There's so many other pieces to the puzzle that it's not just talent. It's not just talent. It's talent and hard work. It's talent and dedication. And you all those things have to come together to make something like Kona happen. And you don't just show up for race day and you're mentally tough. Like, it just doesn't work like that. You have to practice all, I say this in my talks, like, practice the way you want to play. Like, every day has to be preparation for that
I'm
day.
a firm believer in that myself.
100%. Like, every single day that I'm training, like I said to you, every workout has intention. I always push that line a little bit. I get that uncomfortable feeling and I stay there, as you know, and I work on that and I feel that, so that come race day, I can tap into that, because everybody's in pain on race day. Every single person wants to stop and wants to quit and is like talking themselves out of it. That is a guarantee, I'm telling you. I don't care how good you are. It's those that just hang in there and say, I can do this. I've done this. I've been uncomfortable. I want it that badly. But again, I've done it in practice, so it's accessible for me. It's not, and I visualize, like, every day, I visualize myself doing these things. I see myself, racing at Chattanooga or wherever I was. I see it. I'm in it all the time. And I rehearse my race. But it's sometimes not doing other things that make someone successful. Like I said, not staying out late, not, drinking, not eating the wrong foods. It's like sleeping, recovering, foam rolling, stretching, spending time visualizing. It's a lot of the other things that can also contribute to the overall success picture. It's not just what you do, because I don't do excessive mileage. Like, I'm not one of those that's running a ton and swimming a ton. I do what I need to do, and then I stop. I know when I don't have to do what I have. Like, more is not better, is what I'm trying to say. More is not better.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that. And, the fact that you're mentioning that it's also all the other things. So can you kind of break down what an average day looks like for you? It must be so regimented. And so, like, I could imagine that it's very structured.
An average day in, like, Ironman training land, or now?
Yeah. Like, let's say you're preparing, like, now you're likely somewhat off season because it's kind of hard with COVID and everything going on. But let's say you're like 3 months out from
Yeah.
Kona.
Okay, so 3 months out. I mean, it depends. Like, on a weekend, like, let's just say a typical weekend of Ironman training, I'm 3 months out. Friday will be, now I have kids too, and now it's summer. So it depends. I'll do a swim on a Friday, 4,000 yards, like a long swim. And then on a Saturday morning, it's up at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and we're meeting to bike at like 6:30. And that's a 100-mile bike ride. And then we do 6 miles off the bike. And that's a day where I'm getting home at like 5 o'clock at night. I'm gone from 6 a.m. to 5 o'clock at night. That's my long day. And then the next day I'm going to get up and I'm going to run 18 to 20 miles. That's like the height of training right there. And then Monday will be a recovery swim, something like that. So, my days are packed because I've got kids. Like, I can't, my husband's rule is, when you get home, it's cool. I'll let you go all day and bike. But when you get home, you're on. Like, there's no nap. There's no, I'm like, so those are the
Yeah,
tough.
that's tough.
Those
Yeah.
are the days I've been, yeah.
I can imagine that in itself might often be more challenging than the training itself, is coming back and having to actually be a mother.
100%. And I've got to really dig deep on those days and not be tired and I got to be on. But I always say to myself, I'm like, okay, you've got whatever, how many hours until you can go to bed? Because we'll be at the beach, like, we're doing stuff. So if I can relax, I do. But a lot of times we're entertaining. We got family coming over. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it, but I just sort of, but again, that's in the throes of Ironman training. For the most part, most of my days are, get up, I ride, I run, I mix it in. It depends on the kids when I can get them, if they're taken care of, then I do my stuff, and I'll do it anytime, Matt. Like, I'll run in the middle of the day. I'll run at night. I'll run in the morning. I don't mind. I get it done when I can. It's not, I don't have to do it first thing in the morning. And a lot of times I'll run in the heat. Like, people are always afraid. They're like, gonna get up at 5 and run. I'm like, no, guess when the Ironman run is? About 3 o'clock in the afternoon, like in the heat of the day, 2 o'clock, if you're lucky. You're running when it's blazing hot. So I run in the heat. I do a lot of heat training. I do a lot of, solo runs by myself. So I get used to what that's like. And, I really simulate a lot of what the race is going to be, because it's not going to be easy. You're out there by yourself for a very long time.
Yeah. So I have a decent understanding of what your training protocol looks like in a way, like when you're 3 months out. But what does all the other stuff look like? Like, what is how dialed in is your nutrition, your hydration, your sleep, as you said, is so important. And you do have kids. I'm not sure how young your kids are right now, but like for me, I have a 3.5-year-old son that wakes me up generally on a daily basis around 2 a.m. just because he can't find his pillow. So I go in there, help him find his pillow, and he's back to bed within seconds. But that's disrupted sleep, right? So if you're somebody preparing for something as serious as a world event like that, you want to make sure that everything is as dialed in as possible. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, what does that look like for you um, in the height of like peak season? What is up, Beyond Movers? I just wanted to hop in here quickly to say that I'm so stoked that you're listening in on this conversation. I always do my best to pull interesting and powerful information from my guests to give you an opportunity to learn from the best. If you're enjoying this episode of Beyond Movement, I would love to hear what you think, and it would mean the world to me if you would leave an honest review. Tell us what you're enjoying, what you think, and I will continue to bring you the greatest minds that I can get my hands on. Don't forget to take a screenshot and post this in your Instagram stories and tag us at matthew.j.philly and beyondmovement.project so we know you're listening in. Okay, so let's get back to this conversation, and as always, let's go.
I mean, I'm pretty regimented with the sleep. Like I'm going to bed in the summer. Again, the summers are my peaks because it's July and August, and I'm usually racing in September. So, I mean, I'm going to bed 10:30. In the summer, that's tough to do because it's light out till 9 o'clock and everybody's out and about. So I have to really get, the bottles prepped for the night before. I do infinite nutrition now. So I got to make my bottles and my snacks on the bike. And it's a lot of preparation. It takes an enormous amount of time and energy. I've got to pack my sandwich for when I'm breaking, and then I need the drinks for after the run. And it's just a lot of time and a lot of tweaking and a lot of experimenting because the nutrition's huge. You'd be surprised at how many people don't pay attention to that. Like I know what to eat the morning of on my way to my bike ride. I know what to eat after. I have my go-tos, my almond butter and sandwich, and my, I have my things that I do. And at night, it's sometimes, like I said, it's really hard to say no to social stuff. That's the hardest part.
Mm.
You can't, and I'm okay with that. Like, if somebody wants to judge me and say, oh, you're no fun and you don't hang out with us, I really don't care. Like, this is what I want to do. And it doesn't feel like a sacrifice to me because it's what I want to do. But I will say the summer was kind of fun because I didn't have to do any, I could do whatever I wanted. And it was a nice little break, because I haven't had a summer off in years where I didn't have to train. So, a lot of, again, the stretching, and it's just the hydration, it takes over your life for those couple of months. It's really all consuming. Everything I'm doing is evolving around my training. I'm looking at the numbers. What am I doing tomorrow? What is my plan? What are my goals? Where are we going? Who's going? Is my, the bike in the car? Is the pump in the car? It's so all consuming that I don't realize it as much because I'm out of it right now for the most part, it's the snacks, make sure that everything, that there's the cooler with the ice and the drinks and it's a lot. It takes a lot.
It never ends, right?
It never ends. And with 3 sports, I've got the wetsuit, I got to bring that, and the cap and the goggles and the extra pair of goggles, all that jazz. So it's definitely, it's a lot of effort, it's not, and that's why I think when it comes to race day, like, I'm not messing around. Like, I didn't do all of this to show up on race day to just sort of half-ass it.
Yeah. So when I did my first CrossFit competition, I asked around, like, just for little pointers, like, what do you guys recommend? You know what I mean? And one of the best pieces of advice that was so simple and just so obvious in a way, but I didn't think of it, was don't change your nutrition. Like, don't try and eat anything weird the day, like a few days before or anything. Like, stick to your normal and, don't get weird with it. That was like so simple, but like
Simple.
sometimes you don't think about that.
Yeah. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Like, don't.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's so obvious, right? But we don't think
it really is.
Oh, I have all my go-tos. Like, I don't really go too far. Every now and then I'll go, hey, what are you guys drinking during the marathon part? What do you do? But on race day, no, you never wear anything different. You never do anything different. You don't drink anything weird. No, God, no. No, 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 no.
Yeah, just a pint before the run. Just an
Yeah.
easy pint.
Oh, yeah. But you know what? Another thing that was hard for me, I'll tell you, it was hard for me is nutrition during training. Like, I'm just late. I was kind of lazy about it. Like, I wouldn't be on my bike and I wouldn't be drinking enough nutrition. You just don't get thirsty on the bike. You just like, they're like, no, you have to drink. Now I have a bottle which has 260 calories. I drink one of those every hour, along with a snack that brings me to about 400 calories per hour on the, like, there's all these formulas that go into performance. It's insane. It's insane.
Now, I'm curious, is that more to sustain the long bike or is that more to prepare for a run afterwards?
Both. And in my nutrition is amino acids, carbohydrates, protein, sodium. Yeah, there's like, what else is in there? It's a formula, and I have, you can customize your own formula and tweak it to have a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that. It's wild, and
Yeah.
I just yeah,
It's some wild concoction. You need you need a degree to figure out what goes in that stuff.
I'm like, I'm on the phone with the guy and they're like, you want a little more sodium? I'm like, sure. Okay.
I'm not sure.
Do you think, do you think that's good? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
So you're someone who, as you said, in the heat, like you train in the heat. Now it sounds to me like you almost thrive off of going into that dark place, right? Like making a nice cozy little bed in the pain cave, as I like to call it. So that's that. If you can find a way to get in there and like talk yourself through it and continue to push through it and kind of not distract yourself too much away from it, but really just kind of be in the moment while in those dark, like grueling times where you're really just almost like having to really talk yourself through it in a way. It seems like you thrive out of that.
No, I wouldn't say that normally, but I think you're right. When I look back at all the races, because that's the difference maker. That's the difference maker. Everybody gets to that place of pain. It's who can handle it best, who can push through it, and who can persevere under those circumstances. That's going to do well. Like in Chattanooga, when I raced there, it was like the hottest day they had there ever. It was the second largest DNF rate in Ironman history. So there was ambulances. I mean, people were, dropping like flies. So it was hot. So I'm painting a hot picture. But so on that day, your race plan, my race plan of a sub-4 marathon was not going to happen. You can't, so you have to let go of the expectations that you have for that race. Numbers are gone. Now it's all about survival. You know what I'm saying? So the watts that I wanted to push on the bike, as I have a goal of what numbers I'm trying to do, it's gone. You've got to adjust on the fly. So now you're like, all right, my kidneys were like cooking on the bike. It was just baking. The sun was just baking me. So but the point is, at the end of the day, it was the people who kind of got through that heat. Like a friend of mine said to me, he goes, you just slowed down the least of everything.
Right. Yeah, that's basically what it comes down to.
That is what it came down to. He's like, everybody slowed, right? Everybody's times were slower. You did that less than most people. So, and I remember running, on the run, which is my strength. And I was just suffering. Like, I'm like, I can't, it's so hot. And I'm just, my stomach and, the heat makes the body do all kinds of horrible things. And so it was pretty unpleasant, but it's funny. I got to a point and I said, you got to go. Like, it's time to stop this little pity party and let's go. Let's run. So I start running and I start running a little more. And I'm like, F it, I'm not done yet. This is my day. Like, don't give up. And I tell this story. I was running up this hill, god awful. And I see a woman with, the name, you have your age on your calf, right? So you're only looking for people in your age group. You really don't care about, if she was 32, I wouldn't care if she, so I'm like, I think she's in my age group, but I can't see. I'm delirious. The numbers are all starting to bleed down because of the sweat and the water. So I run past her, right? And I'm like, did she see me? Like, I don't know what's going on. And now I'm like delirious. And I'm like, she's going to follow me. She's following me. She's going to catch me. I'm having this conversation in my head. I mean, I think I was listening. So I start running faster and faster. I'm looking over my shoulder. I'm like, she's coming for me. Who knows if she was even, it doesn't matter. The point is I ran my last mile like a 6:30 pace, like just flying. Cause I was so like into it. And I got my groove back and I said, let's go. So at one point in the race, my husband, you can track, he was tracking me and he's like, you're in 4th. I'm like, oh crap. All right, 4th is good. Like, don't get me wrong, 4th is good, but I needed to be like top 2. I was like, okay. He's like, keep going. I'm like, I'm dying. He's like, you got to keep going. So I run, I sprint, I get down the finish line. And I was afraid I was going to fall over because I was running so fast because I just was afraid she was behind me the whole time. And I crossed the finish line and I'm like, how did I do? What did I do? He's like, because it tells you right then and there on the app. It like refreshes. And he's like, how about 2nd place? I was like, what? So I came in 2nd.
Unreal.
In that moment, I knew I made it. But the point is, like, I had this idea in my head that she was chasing me, and I found that next gear. I found it. I don't know how. I don't know where. But, you got to go to that pain cave and get cozy.
Yeah, you're able to find some kind of motivating factor, regardless if that was like external or internal. It was, you found something to push you through, and then you found a second wind.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe from some of the walking I was doing. I don't know. Yeah, and I never walked in a marathon in my whole life, like never, ever. So it was, again, you have to adjust your race plan. You have to make adjustments and say, okay, you know what? It's hot. I'm going to walk and I'm going to just do what I have to do. And, I'm thinking I'm going to run this 8.5, 9-minute mile for the marathon. I'm going to do it in 3:54 or whatever. No, didn't happen. So
no.
Didn't happen. Not on that day.
Yeah.
And that's
so,
okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's totally fine. When things like that come up, you got to be ready to kind of work on the fly, right? Again, I'm so fascinated by how, like, at 43 and then 3 years later, like, I just can't get over that. It's unreal, honestly. So have you always had like that kind of wild mindset that you were just able to push yourself into the dark places that, like, you're okay with getting uncomfortable?
I've never had that chance to do that before.
So you found that through this style of training.
When I did CrossFit, I have to say that's where I kind of found that I found it over, at least I discovered I had it, because I was able to really go to an ugly place in CrossFit, but it's different. I did the CrossFit Games several times. I did, competitions, and I could go there. But it's short term, like those workouts are short, compared to a 12-hour race. So it's one thing to be doing, as many burpees as you can in 7 minutes, or doing these runs and then lifts, and they're over in 40 minutes or 30 minutes. So it's different. It's very different than this endurance pain that you're running a marathon So to answer your question, I don't know. All I know is as a kid, I played tennis and I was pretty tough playing tennis. I liked being in control, and I would run around and chase every ball down. I wasn't the best tennis player. I wasn't technically very good. I mean, I was decent, but it was more about my endurance, my speed, and my tenacity, and I just wasn't giving up. So I won a lot of matches on pure just fight. I would just fight my way through, and I'd break them down until they just kept making mistakes. So they lost the tennis match. I didn't really win it. They lost it, because I just quit. No, it's true, because I wasn't that good. I was okay. I was decent, but I would just wear them out. So I was like a backboard. I was like, I'm not giving up.
Yeah, obviously that works sometimes, right?
It worked a lot. Yeah.
So like in terms of triathlon training, the goals that you set for yourself to get to somewhere like you've been, or to that extent, these goals are fairly audacious, right? Like they're big goals and they take a lot from you, not just from your training, not from your physical body, but literally from your lifestyle as well. So when it comes down to goals, what is that like? I know that you're somebody, I've heard you on a recent podcast, you said that um, you posted up a picture of, or a poster of Hawaii, something about Hawaii, and you would look at it every morning because you either wanted to qualify or you had qualified for Kona.
Right.
And that was like, you were kind of refocusing on the goal, right? So let's talk a little bit about goals now. Have you always had like a really strong goal set, mindset towards goals, sorry, or has that been something that you've kind of cultivated through triathlon training as well?
Great question. I think I've always been pretty goal oriented kind of person. Like this is
Hmm.
what I want to do, and I'm not stopping until I do it. And it's funny because going into 2019 was like a great year for me, and it's probably my best athletic year of my career. And I wrote down December 30th of 2018, right? So right on the cusp of 2019, I wrote down like a bunch of goals that I wanted to. I didn't even so okay. So 20. I wrote down that I wanted to place in this local race, this 10-mile race that's really competitive and really really good. I wanted to podium at that race. I wanted to qualify for Worlds. I wanted to PR at Boston. I think that was it. I didn't even have an Ironman on the calendar yet. So I wrote these things in my phone. I did that race in January. I came in first in masters 40 plus. I ran a 107 10-mile run. So I did like a 6:45 pace for 10 miles, which was insane for me, like super fast for me. And that was huge. Then I PR'd at Boston with a 3:17. Then I qualified for Worlds at Maine in August. And then I qualified for Kona in September. It was just incredible. But I wrote every single one of those things down, except for the Kona thing. So to answer your question, yes, I put all of that in my intention, and I saw it happening for myself. I was like, because I went to Boston that April and I said, I want to PR at Boston this year. I was running great, and I was running, and I hit that pain cave, right? So I was watching my whole time, I watched, and I said, I've got a PR already. I can just kind of chill now the last 3 miles, 4 miles. And I still knew I had a PR because I was like 5 minutes ahead or 6 minutes ahead of but I said, no, go for it. Finish strong. Like, I had to talk to myself the last 4 miles. I was like, come on, keep pushing. Like I wanted to do an 8:30 mile, but instead I did a 7:30 minute mile. You know what I'm saying? So it was like,
Right.
and I wound up running the 3:17, and and I came in like top 20 in my age group from the United States. It was like a huge day for me. So I had a lot of momentum, but back to that was the goal, to do my best at Boston, and I did it. And then my friend who swam with me, my yellow cap swimmer friend, he had gone to Hawaii with a friend of his and watched Kona. He brought me back this poster. I'm staring at it. It's in there, and it says Aloha, and it's up on my wall. And every morning I get out of bed and I see the poster. And it was before I qualified for Kona that I looked at that poster every single day to remind myself of where I was going. And there are some days I would look at the poster and go, there's no effing way. Like, how the hell am I going to do this? Like, everything has to be right on that day to make that happen. Like, everything has to go right. You have to have the perfect race to get to Kona. So I'd look at that, that poster every morning and go, oh my God, I can't do this. Like, and then some days I was like, it's never going to happen. And then some days I'm like, I'm going for it. So it was a reminder for me of where I was heading and what I was doing. And every single day I look at that. And every day I would kind of like, just think about it and knew where I was, and remind myself of where I was heading, what I was trying to do.
That's so cool. I love the visualization of it too. That's something like a piece of the puzzle that not too many people really focus on. I feel like it's almost like woo, right? Like people
Yes.
see it as something that's like it doesn't really matter, but if you can like put yourself in that situation and
Mhm.
literally do your best to feel as though you're there, I feel like that has like that's like
Yes.
almost the unfair advantage in a way for a lot of people.
But people don't buy in, like you said. They just think, oh, that's stupid, that's silly. But I'm telling you, it's those little things. Those are the intangibles, the things that people don't do and that they overlook. And what if your audience walks away with one thing today, it's that it's not just about the training, it's all of the other little things that you do that make up this athlete. It's like the complete athlete, as I kind of call it. because it's not just the training, it's the mental work, it's the preparation, it's the mindset. It's like what you do on a day that you have let's say you have a bad training day, or you just not don't feel good. You have to learn how to completely put that behind you. Like, that is over. Tomorrow is a brand new day and you have to start fresh, right? Like,
It's a recipe, right?
It is a recipe. People they're like, oh, I sucked yesterday, now I suck today, and I'm going to just suck. Like, no, you have to train yourself to be like, okay, and you got to pull out the good stuff, right? You have to pull out the good stuff from that crappy workout. Whatever it is, you got to find something that's positive out of what you did. All right, you know what? At least I ran a little bit, or I felt pretty good, or I don't know, whatever it was. I got outside. You have to find something good in everything that you do. And then there are the days that you don't get the workout in. Then what do you do, right? Something happened. Your kid is sick. It's happened to me. My kid is sick. I can't get my run or my bike or whatever, or something happened and it's just not happening. The weather, you cannot let that affect the next day. Like, it's over. You don't try and make up for it. You let it go. And that is so, so hard to do. Like, I would always be like, all right, tomorrow I'm going to do more. I'm going to add on. I'm going to do this. No, because now you're compromising that day's workout, which compromises the next day's workout. It's a recipe, like you said.
Yeah, it's a recipe. You got to make sure all the other ingredients are in place, even if you've missed one, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much more to it. There's just so much more to the big picture of what it takes. And the consistency is the underlining factor. That's the key. It's just to be consistent in every way you can.
Yeah, and I suppose that rings true for basically anything, right? Like, anything you want to improve at in life, it's going to be, you got to be consistent towards it.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question for you. So seeing that in the beginning, you wanted to, you were kind of curious about trying a triathlon. You wanted to try it, you weren't quite sure. So you went and you tried learning how to swim. So determination aside, clearly you had to have some sort of a growth mindset towards the whole thing to understand that if you were to do a triathlon, you knew you had to overcome the obstacle of clearly not just getting a little bit better and like just improving your speed or maybe just a little stroke, but literally learning how to swim. So that in itself is not just growth mindset, but you clearly had to be extremely coachable as well. Right? Which is something that not too many or not everybody has. So I'm curious, do you feel like that's something like a coachable mindset versus like, a growth mindset versus a closed mindset or a victim mindset? Do you feel like somebody is born with one or the other? Or do you feel like this is like a total learnable skill to become, to have a growth mindset?
I absolutely think it's learnable. I think everything's learnable. I don't think being closed-minded is a choice. That's a choice. Like, people are closed-minded because of their own issues. Like, it's self-preservation. Like, they want to protect themselves from sucking. So they're like, oh, I can't do that. This is the way I do it. And this is just me. I'm not good at swimming. I don't float well. I'm skinny. I don't have good mobility in my shoulder. They're coming up with reasons why they can't learn or they can't do better because they're protecting themselves. They're like, what if I suck? So you have to be able to put yourself out there. Like, I put myself out there. Like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do it. I don't know how to swim. I've never done it, but I'm here to learn and I will work my ass off. Like, I'm not embarrassed if you have to tell me how to do stuff. Like, I don't mind asking the person next to me, like, hey, when you pull underwater, do you stop at your hip or do you go all the way through? Like, how do when you extend your arm out, do you go out to the side? Like, I'm asking questions. Like, can you look at me and see what I do? Yeah, you're doing great. Keep doing that. Like, it doesn't, I'm not embarrassed by that, or I don't feel like I have to show anybody anything. I'm here to learn. And most people in triathlon are pretty understanding. They're pretty helpful people. Like, they want you to be better. You know what I'm saying? I found that to be true. So I put myself out there, but I had the confidence from like the running. I was good at the running. So I knew, okay, I can try this. Maybe I can do it. But I didn't have any expectations also. I was like, maybe I'll get good at it. Maybe I won't. But, there are the people in the swim, like I see them at the pool and they're just swimming along nice. I'm working I'm out of breath. I'm breathless at every interval. I taught myself how to flip turn like last winter. Do you know what I mean? Like in the pool.
Yeah.
I never knew how to do that. No one taught me. I taught myself. And they're like, you can flip turn? They're like, I can't flip it. I'm like, yes, I learned how to flip turn because that's better swimming for in the pool. They're like, how did you do that? I'm like, I watched a YouTube video. They're like, Leah, you're insane. Like, so, but I just believe, back to your question, you know, can that be taught? Yeah, if you open your mind and you really want to learn it, if you really want to be good at something, if that's your goal, you've got to be vulnerable. You have to be open-minded. You have to allow people to help you and not be embarrassed by what you can't do. Like, who cares? Nobody cares. You've got
Yeah,
to be
100%.
coachable is huge. Coachable is
Right. It's like a
huge.
prerequisite. If you want to be successful, you have to be coachable.
You have to be coachable. And I see the people who aren't all the time. And they ask me all the time, how do you get faster? How do you do this? I'm like, you know, I work really hard. They're like, well, sometimes I don't feel like it. I'm like, well, there's your answer. Sometimes I don't feel like it either. But you know what? When I'm out there, it's a different animal. Like I go to another gear, and then I love pushing myself. So you're right. I do kind of like being in that pain. I like pain
Yeah.
and suffering. I like pain and suffering. I'm there. I said it.
Yeah, in a weird way.
It's true. I do.
Yeah. So now you coach athletes, correct?
Hmm?
Now you work with athletes to help them with mindset stuff. So let's talk a little bit about that. How do you like to work with your athletes? Like, what do you focus on?
I mean, I think I focus on intentionality, a lot of intention with what they're doing. What do they want? What's the outcome they desire? What are they willing to do to get that? What are they willing to give up for that? Like what does it take? You know, it's almost like teaching them what a successful athlete has to do. And their mindset is so important. It's like if they believe they can do it, then they'll do it. Like it's all about belief. Like my coach always said to me, well, I would say to him, what do you think I'm going to do? What time do you think I'm going to run? Do you think I can run a 3 this? He's like, it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter. It's what you think. He's like, if I tell you what I think, what does that mean? That puts barriers on you. If I tell you, yeah, you can do this, maybe you can do faster than that. So it's like you have to get people to believe that they can control their own outcomes. And that I also teach them to be about the process and not about the number. Like it's not about obsessing on how fast or what you want. I want to get my athletes to do their very best on that day. That's it. Whatever that day presents them, you have to I coach a volleyball team too, the high school varsity team. And I tell my girls, I'm like, you just have to forget the score, forget what, it's about what you have today. Are you prepared mentally today? That's it. And so all the preparation, all the training gets you for that day because that's what you're working for. So, and it's a shift because people go right to the negative. They go right to what they can't do. They're constantly comparing themselves to other athletes. Well, she's this and he's that, and this one's this. And it's like, no, you're you. Let's focus on what you can do. It's a lot of, it's all mindset.
Yeah, I mean, focusing on the negative is likely just the easiest thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, because it's like a distraction and kind of gives you a way out. It's like letting your ego come forward and just be like, well, I mean, you're losing, so you can stop putting all your effort in, right? Like it's okay to kind of take it easy now because you're losing.
Yeah,
When in fact, if you were just to like really focus on doing your best, as you said, and really like that's your main focus, is like, who cares about the score? Whether you're winning, whether you're losing, whatever, doesn't matter. All you got to do is focus on your performance and how well can you perform here.
right.
And then for all you know, you can have a complete comeback and just completely change things and see a PR even.
Totally. You have to stay present in that moment. It's not about what you didn't do 5 minutes ago in the game or in the race. It's right now, what's going on right now, and what can you keep doing? Like, where are you now? What mile are you at on the race? Okay, this is how I feel. That felt good. This is feeling good. I'll keep doing this. It's like very present. But athletes are all about oh my God, I didn't do that, and I didn't do this, and I suck at this, and every time it gets hot, I do bad, right? I hear that all the time. I'm not good in that. They've already made the decision in their head of how they're going to do. They've already created the out. It's there. It's right there. So they have it there waiting for them so that no matter what, they can just grab onto it. Oh, that it's hot. I suck. I'm out, or it's cold, or it's raining, or the water's choppy. I'm not good in the choppy water, or, whatever excuse they want to come up with, they have it because they've already created it before the race even started. You know what
I
I mean?
feel
So
like there's so much behind that too. Like
I know.
that can go really deep too. Like just looking for an excuse to not give your all, because it's like giving your all is painful and challenging and it hurts. And sometimes it's not what you expected. It's less than you want from yourself, even though that's your absolute best, right? Which can be really scary for some people.
Yeah, but
It's eye opening.
it's eye-opening, but it's also a vicious cycle because, listen, the brain wants to protect you against pain. That's its natural, that's its job. Since
Hmm.
it's you know that's just since the beginning of time, like our
It's like a
brain,
threat signal, right?
right, when it sees danger, it wants to talk you out of it. So of course that it's going to go like that unless you train it otherwise, unless you keep telling it, no, I'm okay here, I'm okay here, it's okay here, I'm okay here.
That is
But that's
exactly what we say in terms of mobility.
same.
Same thing.
Your body wants you out. This doesn't feel good, out. So you have to recognize that it's going to tell you those things, that those things are going to come up. It's going to say to you, this is okay. At least you're doing a marathon. Nobody really does marathons. You're doing it. So that's good enough. It's like I call
Justifying it.
it the good enough trap. It's like, it's good enough. Mediocrity is such a trap. It's like this, it's the enemy of great. I say that mediocrity is the enemy of great because you can't get to great because the middle tells you to stop and quit because that's what the body wants you to do. So you have to train everybody to not listen to that. And that's practice. So that's in training all the time. You have to, nope, this is where my brain tells me this is enough. You've done 4 miles. You're good. No, you're good. But if you can start to push that needle a little bit each time and push it and push it and push it, you'll start to grow. That's where the growth happens. But you're right. The fear of not doing well is so deep seated. And it's like, they're protecting themselves against what they're not sure if they can do. Like, am I really good? I don't want to put myself out there. I'm going to go for an excuse. I'm going to go, oh, my knee, my bad knee. So they go into the race. I'm telling you, it's classic. Well, I've had this knee injury. They've already set the stage. They've
Yeah.
set the stage for their out.
Instantly already created excuses. What
Yep.
blows my mind is that this literally blows my mind is that greatness is not just like success, greatness, however you want to look at it, however you want to call it, it's not just something that happens. People aren't really born with it. It's habits, right? Like it's literally a habit.
Mm-hmm. It's 100% a habit. I say behave your way to success.
It blows my mind every time.
It's attitude. It's all about what you think you're capable of doing and what you believe you're capable of doing. It's habits, it's training, it's mental, it's all of the things we've talked about. It's a consistency, and anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. It's a matter of will and desire, dedication, commitment, belief. And once you start doing it and you create those good habits, you see yourself changing. You see the needle turn, like it moves, and you're like, wow, I didn't think I could do that, but I did. And then you do that again. So when I work with people, I want them to feel that feeling of, oh my God, I did that. Like, that felt pretty good. I didn't think I could do that. Yes, you can. And then do it again tomorrow. And then do it again tomorrow. And then again. And then again. And then a little more. And it starts to become like you've strengthened that muscle. It's a muscle, just like anything else. And you have to learn how to use it and build it up so that it's strong. And it outweighs the other muscle of I suck, I'm not good, everybody's better than me, I'm bad in the heat, I have bad knees, blah, 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 blah.
I mean, it all sounds like it makes so much sense and it's just obvious, right? But like we're creatures of habit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and habits as in like what going back to our comfort zone is where I'm trying to get at here. Like creating new habits is very, very challenging, and crushing old habits, not serving habits, bad habits, that's challenging to do. Like it takes daily work for sure.
My advice to everybody on that is simple. Run with one. I have a phrase I use, run with one. Pick one thing that you are going to work on and only do that. Only do that. Because if you try and do too many things at one time, you're not gonna incorporate new habits. So my new habit for this last like 2 months that I've been doing is getting up super early, like before 5, and working out before work. And it's miserable for me because I'm not a morning person, but that is what I've been focusing on, doing that every day. So in order to do that, I have to go to bed earlier. In order to go to bed earlier, I have to make lunch earlier. I have to clean up the kitchen earlier. I have to get my act together. Everything has to be, so everything becomes intertwined in that goal. That one thing, that's the only thing I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to drink 100 ounces of water a day and cut out all dairy and exercise every day and stretch every day and get up early. And you can't do all those things. Like, I just believe that if you were to focus on one thing, but again, we sabotage ourselves. I'm gonna, no sugar and only water and getting up early and running every day. You're not gonna do all that. Pick one thing and go with it. And then when that becomes routine, do something else. Then you pick up something else and do it. So that's just my best advice to the habit forming, because you're right. You have to unlearn the bad habits and replace them with better ones. And it's not easy because you're right. We're creatures of habit.
Yeah. But what's amazing about like what you just said is focusing on the one goal, and your one thing that you were focused on is getting up early and training. That's it. That's your main focus. But all these other things had to be in place in order to. So those aren't what you were focusing on, but those are an outcome of what you've been focusing on. So you could have focused on all that, but that might have sabotaged the ultimate plan, as opposed to just focusing on this one thing and then allowing the other things to fall into place to make sure that this one thing that you are focused on happens.
But it requires tremendous energy. Someone could be like, "Oh, just get up at 5 every day, or 4:45." Like, no,
It's not that simple.
Not that simple. Like, you have to respect the energy. Like, I know I have only so much energy, right? Or only so much bandwidth is the word I like to use. This is my bandwidth. I have this job. I have a job. I have 4 kids. I have a husband, a house, a puppy. Like, and I want to train every day, and I want to do my coaching. So like, I only have so much to give, right? So other things have to fall by the wayside. And this is part of the success formula, is that, I'm not going to sweat it if my house isn't in perfect condition, or I'm not entertaining every night, or I'm not going out with girls' night out. I give all that up because this is what I'm focusing on: job, family, training. That's it. Like, it's less is more. I say go deep with less. So pick those 3 things: family, job, training. Those are my things. And that's it. That's all I do, because I couldn't do any more than that and do them well. Like, I can't sacrifice my family. That's the most important thing. So and then the training is my thing. That's my love. That's my passion, my hobby, my outlet, my social, all rolled into one, right? Because it takes up a lot of time. So, but you have to say, you can't do it all. Like, everyone says, "Oh, having it all, you can have it all." That's crap. I don't buy that. And just like I said about the getting up early every morning, that I have to have, my outfit has to be ready to go, right? So that has to be put out before I go to bed. The workout needs to be picked. The bike needs to be ready. The laptop needs to be set up. The water, all of this has to be in place for one stinking habit. It's a lot. I'm just, I'm just demonstrating how much energy goes into that. So I can't possibly tackle other stuff. Like, I can't. I was doing yoga every day for a while. Like, that was my thing. And then I'm like, I can't do that and get up at 5 and do this and that. It's not possible. So know your limits.
Too
like,
much. Yeah, 100%.
I'd rather be good. I'd rather be great at a few things than good at a lot.
Yeah, precision, right? Like, laser focused on one thing.
Yes.
Love it. Love it. Leah, you've been an incredible guest. I feel like we've had an amazing conversation, and I want to keep going. So maybe we'll end the recording and we'll just chat for another 2 hours. I appreciate your time. It's been amazing, but I have one final question for you, and I'd like to ask my guest this. I want to know what your thoughts are on the one, like, if you had to choose one thing that separates high performers from those that aren't reaching their goals, what would you say that one thing is? You have to choose just one thing.
I want to say mindset. I hear all the children. Mindset. I think it's mindset. They're all coming home from school. Yeah, I think it's belief. It's mindset, because it's all about what you think you can achieve. And if you think there's limits, then there's limits. If you don't think there's limits, then there's no limits. And you act that way. Like, that's how you carry yourself on a daily basis. If your belief is I can do anything, then you act like you can do it. And then you train like you can do anything. So it all starts there in my mind.
I agree. A lot of people hold themselves back without even really knowing that.
Yep. And they can all do it. And I tell them, if I can do it, anyone can do it. Trust me. That's my goal. Like, I want to share my story, because I don't think, again, you talked about at the beginning, do I have athletic talent? Sure. But there's nothing special. I hate to say it, but I'm not really special. I just work super hard, and I'm laser focused, and I'm really committed to the process. And I think
amazing. Love it. Leah, thank you so much. This was great. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So much fun. Thanks for having me.
Hello. I wanted to say a huge thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to sit through this conversation with me. It's honestly my mission to bring you the greatest minds and pull some epic information from them to help you view your life through the lens of thought leaders and game changers. We're on a daily journey to be one step ahead of who we were yesterday, and I am excited to have you right here to walk this road with me. One of my goals is to help more people take control over their success and their daily lives. And one of the best ways to do this is with your reviews. This helps us rank the show to get it in front of more people. So if you enjoyed this episode and you have a quick moment, it would honestly mean the world to me if you would leave a review and comment about what you liked and maybe even who you want to see on the next show. Don't forget to put the tools you learned through this episode to practice, and I will see you next episode. Let's go.